Good afternoon, all of you. This is the second day of our faculty development program. Our chief guest, Professor Dr. Deepak Parma, has already joined in our meeting. So I am very much happy to welcome Mr. Rahul Kurula to introduce today's guest, Professor Dr. Deepak Parma. Thank you.
To say about Professor Dr. Deepak Kumar Verma, he is a professor at Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University of Social Sciences. It's popularly known as BRAUS, BRAUSH, which is the first university of social sciences in the country. He is also the Dean of Social Sciences and Management Studies, and he is also the member of the governing body and the director of research and extension training. He is the chairman of the board of studies. He is also the chairman of research degree committee, research advisory committee, research committee, and purchase committee. He is the convener of dean's committee and also the second convocation committee. He is the editor of broad journals in the university, and he is also the chairman of publication and course in charge of research methodology and statistics. He is also the chairman of various other committees at the university, and he was also formerly the vice chancellor, the registrar, librarian, and financial controller at BROAD. Sir, you are the rightful person to handle today's section on examination reforms, epistemological perspectives, and methodological prospects. We are extremely pleased to have you amongst us, sir. Over to you, sir, and welcome each and every one of you participants to this gathering and meeting. Over to you, Deepak, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. And at the outset, I express my thanks and gratitude to all the authorities of organizing this event, and in particular, the Department of Commerce and head of the department, organizing committee, its convener. And really, it's a kind of opportunity extended to me to discuss something very important, which has become more important in this new education policy 2020, and it is regarding the examination reforms. And as I have been associated with the examination, also being the examination controller, examination in charge, and also as I have been introduced serving different administrative positions in the university, I got my own understanding of examination as such. And when I see from different perspective, particularly in epistemological perspectives, so what kind of methodological prospects we can see with the examination reforms as such. So friends, there may be some duplication also because it is the second day, but still I consider it very important to quote Dr. Radhakrishnan Commission's comment, which was given in 1948 with regard to examination, when it was said by the chairperson that if we are to suggest one single reform in university education, it should be that of examination. That means right from the beginning, we have got very doubt about the examination system as such. And when we say examination are associated as a continuum with the teaching, learning, and evaluation, then we need to have a deeper understanding about not only the ontology of examination as such, the etymology of examination, what is examination as such, what we call it, and how we have been conducting, what are the problems associated, and why we need reforms. So with the examination, before I discuss about the examination, let me just think about something about the reforms as such also. What we call reform. Reform, we want to basically mean to express about the changes that is desirable in the positive aspect of it. The changes, as we see in the social sciences, they are based on two approaches, whether we have the changes in the structure, that means the system continues, and we go on making amendments. We go on adding something or reducing something so that the system works in a proper manner, smooth way. There we make the changes in the structure. And another thing is with regard to changes is structural change. When we want to change the entire system, it is total overhauling. So from these two perspective, to this epistemological perspective, changes in the structure and the structure change, I would like to make some reflections uh, with regard to first the structure changes in the structure. So far, when we take right from the beginning, when this education journey started, and let me confine myself to in the post-independent era only. So from the 1947 onwards, I, I want to see. I'm not going into ancient India and what the traditional universities in India before independence were having this kind of setup, but we are very much concerned what is the present policy and how those policies have evolved through the time. So if I take this changes in the structure, what is happening, the first structure that is given to us when we established our universities, and we continued with that. So Radhakrishnan also reminds one thing. Dr. Radhakrishnan said, our civilization is not built of bricks, steel, and machinery. It is built with man, their quality and character. So I think the examination, the education is based on all these criteria that we need to understand. And when we see the Dr. A.L. Madliar Commission, which laid down a specific on the internal assessment, continuous assessment in the 1986 policy and there onwards, then we see all the time we are just making here and there some changes in the structure, existing structures. So what we call as reforms are not reforms as such. They are just the changes. So how could be the perspective of structural change may be there, but they're total. So the basic question or a kind of absurd question I will just ask myself first, can knowledge be tested or examined or evaluated? So we have to start with that. Can performance be assessed? Or more absurdly, I would say, let us take this perspective first. What will happen if you don't take any exam? How this kind of system will work? So this gives some idea for what purpose we are conducting examinations and why examinations are, they have become much more important than the education itself, than the teaching and learning itself. If I see, when I was in the administrative positions of the universities, and it is a very common experience, if we see the examination as such, our faculty are much more concerned, much more under stress to conduct the examinations. Or rather, those affiliating universities are putting more than half of their resources and labor for conducting the examinations. And while etymologically, if we see our epistemological understanding that we have about the university, they are the centers of creating the knowledge creation. So whether the knowledge creation is important, learning is important, teaching is important, or the examination is more important. So what I see in the system, we do not have faith. We do not have faith in our teaching and learning. We have more faith on the examination system. We depend our understanding on examination system as such more. But the examinations that we have, the system that we have, that system that has evolved throughout the new education policies, first, second, and this one, and also through different commissions, all they have kept the examination system on the priority. And even in this present new education policy 2020 also, though it is very important, some important suggestions are there. But again, I see these changes are making the system continue with some changes. Whether the board examinations will happen or what will be the mode of those board examinations and what kind of a more comprehensive evolution will be there, but the system will prevail. So we are continuing with the system. So we are not focusing more on the reforms, which we call total total entire changes in that way. So let us see how this has evolved. Basically, if you see the original history of examination, this is started with selecting, particularly from China, it is started selecting persons to serve the state. So their competence was important. The examinations are for the competence. But in education, with the competency, the emphasis is more on critical thinking and conceptual clarity. And this is very important to understand now, because when we are thinking about public examinations and when we are thinking about the examinations that we have in the education, then definitely the grading, the marking and other things becomes less important, but how you are competent to face the challenges, how you are competent to enhance your capacities, capabilities, and how your critical thinking is developed for the betterment of the society. Second aspect, what I think is about the employment. We have linked very much these examinations with the employment, selection, the merit. We want to develop a merit. We want to sort out people. We want to have a short listing. We have large number of applicants, candidates, and we want to shortlist them. So examination is serving our purpose. Here the perspective is very important. From the epistemology perspective, I'm telling, examination is serving the purpose of the education system for the administrators, for the teachers, but whether it is serving the purpose, the aim for which students are learning. So these two, again, perspective emerge from the perspective of the administrators, from the perspective of the system, those who make the system and those who want to be the power centers in the system, or those who are taking the benefit from that system, who are the stakeholders and who are pursuing their studies. So to which end this examination is serving the purpose. So if we examine, then definitely the examination system is serving the administration, the bureaucracy, the setup, the system setup, not to the students. Though they appear for the exam, they give the examination, they take the examinations, but still the level of learning, the quality of learning, and after qualifying the grades, after qualifying the curriculum, whether they have become competent. And the biggest bottleneck in this, I see, is the question answer system. So our examination system is in fact a question answer system. And if I take the question is from the perspective of the system, the administrators, the teachers, and answers are from the perspective of the students, and we evaluate. So whether we should go this kind of thing in the examination, so whether it is examination as such for the learning, as such for the competence or not, there we need to have some understanding. And to that understanding, I just take questions for the sake of examination itself. It was the first journey, first phase, what I would say, question just for the sake of examination. Then there used to be some questions, and repeatedly those questions were asked in different years, and some of the other majority of the students, I would say, those who just go for the memorization or rote learning, they used to wrote those questions only, important questions only, and some guides and some coaching centers used to become important just to qualify the exam. So they are not very much concerned about the learning, the contents. They were more concerned about the passing the exam. So the need, I would emphasize, what is the priority? Whether the priority is just to qualify the exam, just to pass the exam, or we have to focus on learning. So there we made some changes in the structure, like purposeful and meaningful questioning. Then instead of pure memory-based questions to analytical or understanding questioning. Then from the quantitative questioning to some challenging aspect or some qualitative aspects, and from assessment of learning to assessment for learning. All these structural changes in the structure we were making. But examination system continued based on question and answering. And there we may have two perspectives, from the open books to earlier the closed one. All these are being trial and error kind of thing, experimental kind of thing that we were doing. And again, if we see how we qualify these examinations, then the question answer system is again that based on from marks to grades. We are just making changes in that. So whether marks or grades, we can distinguish, we can see different kinds of thing. But again, it is one and the same thing. In that sense, you have to answer questions and you have to qualify the exam, then you are upgraded. The basic question which I started, just taking one example, a very simple example of passing these grades. And it was a real example which I saw, which I experienced. And during one of the research studies also, it was confirmed with a significant level. And that was, I was taking some scholars who were MSc Agriculture to the field in agriculture extension. And a non-technical person, non-educated person in agriculture, a farmer, a common farmer, was sowing the seeds. A postgraduate in agriculture science was not able to comprehend and to convince the farmer with lot of technical and scientific agriculture education that he got at master's level to get the productivity in the desired way, the traditional way the farmer was making use of it without any formal education. So if MSc Agriculture student is not able to understand the ground root realities, though they have done some trial experiments also, though they have learned a lot scientifically, but in practice, they are the failures. They are not able to do justice to their learning, but they have got the first division, they have got the good marks. So examination system is there. Examination system is qualifying them to be masters in agriculture science, but not in the practice. So the field and the book view that we decide, the two perspectives, then again the field and the book view. We are very much concerned just to impart the knowledge, but whether that knowledge will be practically used, whether the student will be competent enough to make changes. And another aspect of it, which is the epistemological perspective, I am taking from the student side, from the stakeholder side. So we are very much concerned to keep our system very honest, very intact with the integrity. That's why we check by all means the malpractices involved in that examination. We give more focus, more emphasis, more our energy and resources to check the malpractices. And if you go to the Bihar and these states in Uttar Pradesh, you see the mass copying practices there. They make the news, cheating. So examination system itself, it's very difficult from the strict point of view. And again, to maintain the integrity, honesty of this system, it becomes very doubtful. Now, bureaucratic clutches, they are there. There is one single order, you have to conduct the examination. In this pandemic also, I'm witnessing this kind of thing. The Department of Education is just passing on the orders. Yes, you have to conduct the examination. Now, what are the practical difficulties? And they have written, you have to conduct the examinations with all safety and safeguards in this pandemic. Like you have to maintain the distance. Now you practically see the classes, the room size that we have got, how much we can have this kind of physical distancing ensured, and so that the safety and standard measures are followed. It becomes very difficult. So examination from point of view of the system, just to give this kind of, and see another part of it. The teachers, the professors, the faculty, they are made the officers to conduct the examination controller. So it is just adding to their load. It is burdening them further. The examinations we see from different perspectives, different epistemological perspectives. They in a kind of summary, I would say, they are not helpful in learning process, but they are very helpful in seeing the outcome of the teaching and to maintain and retain the system. So examinations are more system oriented rather than output oriented and learning oriented. Because physically we can have the system, physically we can control the system, but learning is very abstract kind of thing which requires practical applications of it. So how we can have examinations? We have practicals in science, we have practicals in technology engineering, we have practicals in these subjects. I'm not talking about these practicals. They are in the laboratories. I'm just talking about the open society, the community. How much changes the science student or engineering student, technical educated person is bringing changes in the community, changes in the society. We have so many masters in economics, we have so many masters in commerce, but why the poverty is persisting? Because there is no direct link between community engagement and such kind of, and this examination is the barrier there. So I'm not talking about the examination as a barrier only for the learning aspect. I'm talking about why we do not have the structural change in the examination and how we can go about it. I'm coming to the methodological prospects for this now. So I just take help of why we are just keeping this kind of system alive or sustaining. So we take roots from UGC way back in 1958, constituted one committee of Dr. Benjamin S. Bloom, who was the head examiner, University of Chicago, to examine, to advise on the examination reforms in our country. And Dr. Bloom prepared a 10-year phased program of examination reforms. But if you see that report contains more emphasis on those who will be conducting the examination. Now, methodologically, students, the stakeholders, they have to qualify. And those who qualify must not be under stress. They must enjoy qualifying it. The emphasis, why we are giving more emphasis on those who conduct the examination system. What I meant to say, the stakeholder students must enjoy the examination. They must be ready. They must be ready to face the examination anytime. And they must take it very pleasure. Yes, I'm very much ready. I'm ready now. That's why we have continuous and comprehensive evaluation. But again, this gives stress to students. So what I meant to say here is methodologically, we have to shift from changes in the structure to structural change. And this structural change, the important thing will be how we can make our examination system student oriented. So they themselves will be willing to come out and say, yes, I want to face the examination. And I want to, it must be like a play kind of thing. In sports, they participate and they enjoy. Why they do not have the pleasure? Why they do not have the enjoyment? Yes, I have qualified at this level. Now I'm moving to another level. So if majority of our students, they have this kind of feeling, yes, it is a pleasurable kind of thing to me, then I think the cheating, the malpractices will not be there at all. When they will consider, yes, it is for my life. When students and their society, they will consider, yes, it is for us. So if you do any malpractice, adopt any malpractice or cheating, then it is ultimately going to affect me. Then definitely this cheating and malpractices will stop. They will be minimum. They will be on the reducing side. Because we know, as health, we have to see it. As these kind of approaches we must have. But unfortunately, our education system, you cannot change overnight. It takes time. So making the changes in the structure, they just take time. You have things. But the structural change, you have just one stroke. Now, from this academic session, we will be having this much percentage of examination from a student point of view. There will be no system as such. Then absurdly, we can have some methodological prospect like this. Every student can decide when he or she wants to take the exam. That means There will not be any kind of system. There will not be any date. It will be continuous evaluation. They will be doing it. So whenever they feel like, yes, I am confident now, I have got this much learning and it gives me pleasure now to qualify my exam and I appear for the exam, then they can have. This is one prospect from a student point of view. I see the methodological as prospect I am seeing from this point in that way, the examinations becomes just a kind of daily teaching and learning. And what we mean to say by comprehensive and continuous evaluation, from this prospect we can understand. This is the prospect from the student point of view. But the problem is there are power relations. We need to understand these power relations. In the education systems, those who are engaged as authorities, those who are engaged as faculty, those who are engaged to maintain and run the system, they maintain a power relations. They maintain a confidentiality. Because it is very difficult to frame the questions. And it is very easy to frame the questions which allow cheating, which allow malpractices, which allow the coaching centers, which allow this kind of rote practices or memorization. It's very easy. And I do not blame. It is a system that which has evolved like that. And the faculty members are also trained in that kind of question framing also. So when I said the perspective, the epistemological perspective of examination is of question and answering, one will ask the question and the receiving end will answer. And this is one kind of system that we have developed so far, and it is not giving us the proper result. It is not reaching to the aim of education. It is not reaching the very purpose of teaching and learning. The learning becomes very low priority in this kind of system. So how we can reverse it? Then let the student, the stakeholder, decide, I want to answer this question. What I'm talking about may be a very innovative kind of, it may be considered a very abstract kind of thinking, but when we talk about the structural change, then we have to come out of the system. We have to come out of the very narrow-mindedness of the system in which we are working right now. We have to be innovative. We have to be research-minded. We have to be out of the box discussion that we need. So when a student decides, yes, I am ready to answer the question, which question I will answer? I conducted one experiment. In one of the internal assessment, I gave my MPhil students to frame their own questions. And when they frame their own questions, then I asked them to answer them. And they could answer their questions. Then I did one experiment. I took the course coordinator and gave a copy of those answer sheets and asked students to evaluate those answer sheets. You will be surprised to know this self-evaluation by students was carrying less marks than the coordinator gave. So how I just interpret this kind of results? The actual assessment by them was a real one, I would say. But the assessment by the course coordinator was a little bit exaggerated in terms of his own teaching, because that component was also involved. That prestige or ego was involved. Since I was teaching, I must not fail anybody. But in that exercise, two students failed themselves. And this happened because I assured them that whichever will be having the best marks, the coordinator or self-assessment, I will be keeping that. So they could do assessment in a real assessment form. It was from them only. So we can have a kind of monitoring in this kind of system if we adopt. We give the opportunity to students only to write their own questions, to answer them, to evaluate them, and whether they are confident, then we can say, yeah, it is self-assessment. So in this new education policy, the emphasis is there. But I don't think it could be implemented, because again there may be some changes in the structure, existing structure, where this question answer from one to another perspective is, let the structural change be there from the stakeholder point of view, the students point of view, and let them have the questions, let them have the answers, let them evaluate, assess them, whether they feel themselves competent. Yes, I have qualified this stage and I am ready to go to the next stage. Then the question of doubt will be there. How many students may have this kind of vested interest, or their favoritism, or something kind of this thing, or they may be fooling us, or they may not be having the proper assessment of themselves. So why don't we make our learning like swimming? If you don't learn swimming properly, you will be drowned. So it is linked with your life. So why don't we make this life and this learning, teaching, learning as a life-serving purpose, life-saving purpose, living purpose for the future in that way? And why don't we are not able to convince them that this education is not just to get the degree. This education is not just for your qualifying one level or another level. This learning, this knowledge is for your life, for your family life, for the life of the society, for the betterment of the future. No one is concerned with this kind of continuum, because the examination has made this kind of distinction. There is a divide. There is a divide. So whenever we have discussions, whenever we have the webinars, whenever we have the faculty development programs, we just focus ourselves to this given set of standards and we want to discuss in that one. But I would say, when we have to see education is such a dynamic kind of arena where our future is depending, then we must be ready to accept any kind of abstract thing, and let us have the trial, let us have the experiments, whether this will serve the purpose or not. Because we have seen for the last 7-8 decades, it's not serving the purpose. I take another example, just to give justify or in support of my understanding how we are there. I checked this PhD, Doctor of Philosophy. So Doctor of Philosophy, most of the faculty, they do it, they get the degree, and rest of their life, after getting the degree in 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years, entire life they are saluted by the society as doctor. So for what purpose they are being saluted? Why this society is recognizing them as doctor? Because the society considers, because the Doctor of Philosophy degree, if you see the epistemological aspect of the PhD, the ontological aspect of PhD, Doctor of Philosophy, whether you do in physics, whether you do in chemistry, whether you do in philosophy, whether you do in commerce, all we get Doctor of Philosophy. So there is a purpose, there is an aim of philosophy. Philosophy means knowing the reality. One is qualified to know the reality of the society, and the society is saluting the person who has been awarded doctorate, that he or she knows how to know the reality, how to comprehend the reality. So he or she will be a better person to guide us, to lead us to the reality. And with this same, we have this PhD. But the doubt, plagiarism, cut and paste, favoritism, one or two examiners just are examining, evaluating the thesis and being awarded. But whether the person has become competent in the methodology of knowing the reality or not. And that's why we have so many PhDs. But in reality, it becomes very difficult whether the person has become competent. Whether we have awarded the degrees looking at the competence of the person to, yes, in the society, in that subject, the reality, methodology is very much known to him or her, and they can guide the society accordingly. So the evaluation in that aspect, in the highest degree also, it is not serving the purpose. It is not serving the purpose. So we need to have examination reforms which can serve the purpose. And for the faculty development programs, if I take, yes, these are the guidelines given, these are the standards, they are very much there. They are not, there is no need to discuss in such kind of platforms here. What I mean to see, we have to expand our horizon. We have to expand our understanding and experiencing such kind of things which we are facing right now. And I take example of this pandemic itself. Neither the government nor the bureaus were ready to have this kind of understanding. But this is not the first pandemic that we are facing. Our humanity was facing pandemic for so many years. Every century we are facing this kind of pandemic, and how the SARS and MERS they are emerging now in 2 or 3 decades. We will be having such kind of pandemics. But which subject is teaching us this kind of thing? It was very difficult to incorporate environmental studies as a fundamental course or essential component in our learning. And I don't know whether we will be having this kind of pandemic chapters or courses in our education and our curriculum, and when it becomes a questionable kind of thing. Then again, if we take this kind of learning of pandemic in the examination system, then it will be utter failure. A person who is qualifying with higher grades about the pandemic education may not be necessarily competent enough to face the challenges or make the changes in the society in that way. So examination system is for us. Then we have to see methodological prospects from the stakeholder point of view. I take another aspect of it, which is very important, because we have this principle in our computer, which is famous one, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Examination system I take from this perspective only. If we take some research point of view and research understanding, we have got the understanding from the new education policy. This will happen, this will happen. This is the broad vision that we have given. But to translate into action, to make to constitute task force, to make the plan and schemes to implement, then at that level I'm talking about. We can go for the changes also in both ways, structural changes and changes in the structure, but we must think garbage in and garbage out. In the education system, what is happening, those institutions which are doing very, very good in imparting knowledge and other things, let us see some kind of statistical figure. If we take merit, examination, merit, I am linking this to. The problem is, in the education system, this examination system as such is based on a GIGO principle. In some other way, I would say cream in, cream out, because you are depending your examination system on the basis of merit, cut-off marks. So let us think about this methodological perspective also. Selection, admission, upgrading, going to next level, it's nothing but cream in, cream out. And if you follow the Gaussian population, the normal population as such, the cream in will be cream out only. But I want to see the system, education system in that those who could not fare well, those who are on the lowest in the rank, how we can have educational development for them. What are the plans that we have done? So if we have the examination system, let us focus not on the cream. Let us not focus on the merit. Let us see those who have been left out, those who are in the ladder. So whether they are not competent, whether they are not persons, those who can inclusive education, whatever we are talking about right now, we think about the gender and caste and the economic background only. But I am talking in that way also, those who do not fare well. I'm not considering the merit holders. I'm considering those. I did one experiment. I conducted one entrance examination, and in that way, those who were in the lowest, those who could not get even 5 marks, I approached them, and I had some kind of extra classes for them. I prepared them for the next entrance examination, and I share with you, as many as 48% of them, they could do fairly in that next semester, next entrance examination. What was the difference? The difference was they were from the background where this accessibility of means and mechanisms to get the merit was not available or accessible to them. What I meant to see, this merit is also not just the learning. Merit is not just the social competence that is there. It has some means and mechanisms involved inherently, or we can say the family background and other things. So many, it is a complexity. It is a very integrated kind of affair we have to see. So what Bloom has suggested learning levels with regard to creating, evaluating, analyzing, applying, understanding, and these we have to see from different perspective now. IITs, IIMs are doing fairly well because cream in and cream out. You select by merit and they will be doing. But education is a public good. Learning is a right of every individual, of every citizen, of every student, of every youth. So if they do not get it, then we have got the limitation. We don't have the institutions. We have the limited resources. Somehow we have to work out. And to work out is more system oriented, more power oriented rather than need oriented. Those who need, they must get the access. So examination system from this point of view also I'm discussing. It is not serving the purpose. It is not serving the constitutional ideals. It is not based on the constitutional values. It is not serving to make India a better place to live in future. Because majority of them, they will be left behind in this kind of examination system. So how to change this cream in and cream out? How we have to change the dependency on merit only to see, and this examination system, I would say, is not outcome-based education. We need performance-based approach for that. And performance, those who are performing well and high, they are okay. We can take them. But our concern in education learning, our concern in the examination system must be those who could not do well. So this is very important understanding. I think my time is up to 4:20 only, but if you permit and if I have 1 or 2 points more to make, if the organizers think I can have some more time, some 5 minutes to kindly just respond to me so that
5 minutes, okay, sir.
Thank you.
We can dispense the interaction section and ask questions through email.
Okay.
You can talk, sir.
Thank you. So right now what I see, our whole entire teaching program, our education system, which is geared up around examination, we must shift it to, in the examination reform, to learning oriented. So examination system is because it is foreign to us. It is a kind of British legacy that we are continuing. It is kind of the system requirement that we are talking about. So we have to understand we need students for our society. We need education for our society. We do not need students for some institutions only to serve the purpose of some limited kind of affair only. That's why we are having a huge number of educated unemployed persons, and it is going to increase. And what I want to say about this is because of the examination system that we have. We qualify students which are not at all qualified for the practical purposes in the society, which are not at all qualified for self-employment opportunities. We have induced in this examination system because it was linked with the service, so it is some status oriented. So our education based on this kind of examination system is only favoring for the white collar jobs. That's why I gave you example. When we go into the agricultural field, it becomes very difficult for a master of agriculture science to adopt the means and ways the traditional one is doing, or to involve in the agricultural practices. They will just guide us. So we do not need the students, the learned population, the learned youth to guide, but to take action, to be in the field, to be in the action. And that is very important. So our education system, our examination reforms must see for what this education is there. for what this examination is there. Examination is not everything. Examination is not the priority. Examination is not before teaching and learning. Examination must be after teaching and learning. Then the faculty must not be involved in the examination system as such, what I would say. Why? Because we have got service commissions. So methodological prospect I see, if you want to say, see some reforms, then let us have one agency responsible for conducting the exam throughout the year. Let not the faculty involved, let not be students under stress. Let there be a continuous examination. And how this system can be evolved, what kind of resources will be involved. So what I see, it will be less than what the present system we are having. Less resources will be used, less exchequer will be there. It will be reduced kind of affair and giving more results. So we are conducting examinations for different kind. Let us have a convergence. One examination may serve many purposes. We have to see in that way. So public service commissions are there. In every state, there is a public service commission, and it is for the public services only. So why you call public services? You can have, depending on the aptitude and other things, you can evolve. So let us have a structural change. Let us call them examination commissions only. And if what I say about this is, when you have one examination commission at the state level doing everything, then universities and faculty members are relieved from such kind of duties and are more meaningful and more effectively, more contributing to the teaching and learning process. So what I want to say, we have to go to the end, the purpose end of this education, the purpose end of this learning process. Then we must have more time, more resources for learning and teaching, rather than wasting our energies and time and resources for such a system which is not serving the end purpose of education, the end purpose of knowledge, the end purpose of changing the society, the end purpose of contributing to the knowledge for a future. So what I suggest here, let us have some out-of-box thinking. Let us have some out-of-box discussion. Let's have some challenges. Let us have some abstract understanding as well. Thank you very much.
Good evening, participants. We had a very wonderful session, very informative and inspiring session. We should have given him at least 1.5 hour, but we are going to start another session at 4:30. We have to begin at that time. So I rushed through the words he has presented for us. We should change our perception, even the perception about our examination. Then second point, he has very sympathetic to us that even decades-old commission reports were not at all implemented in India in a full-fledged way. Then we should change our focus and style of our questions itself. One truth brought by him before us, and I am struck by that, is that a student who passes an examination does not have even the feeling and thrill and cheer of passing a game. That is the condition we have with respect to exam. And there he hinted about the two sentences, garbage in and garbage out, or cream in, cream out. That refers to the quality of the teachers ourselves. Then another sympathetic is we should qualify our students for practical purposes. Employability should be increased, and that is what we don't achieve to the fullest extent now. Very informative section we had, and I think we should call him once more for our webinars of the similar nature. Because we don't have much time in this respect, we are shifting to the next session, and participants are requested, please kindly bear with us and ask your questions to our emails, and we will send the same to Deepak Kumar Verma sir, and who may answer it if they are critical of nature. Then thank you very much, Deepak Kumar Verma sir, for joining us, for your strain and pain for us. Thank you very much, sir, once again. Thank you all participants for joining here. We are shifting now to new education policy discussion. The panel members are waiting for us. Thank you very much, sir. Sorry for participants for not getting you, giving you Verma sir for an interaction. This is just because we are short by time. Thank you very much.